Hello, everybody. Welcome to this app. It's your boy Dave Neal with Erica Wernick. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited.
You said it right.
I thank you. I know. There's no name I can't fuck up. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's the hard ones. I'll get some like long Italian name right, and then I'll just mess up like the easiest shit. But it's so nice to have you on here. It's been forever since I've seen you in the flesh.
I mean, to be honest, I think we've only seen each other in the flesh maybe once in our lives.
That's it.
Yeah.
Did you go through the thing to be like, do I know this guy any more than that? Or do I just know him?
I definitely remember when we met. And we're Facebook friends.
Yeah.
So.
That's the beauty of Facebook is you can meet somebody, sort of be on each other's back burner in like a social friendly way. And then when the time's right, you can reconnect. And the time's right now. We met. Did you? I don't know if you knew this. That was like the loneliest time of my life when we met.
Really?
Did you know that? It was like It was like around 7 years ago. Would you say?
I have no idea what it was.
Can you imagine it was that long ago?
Literally no idea.
I thought I was old 7 years ago, and that was a long time. Anyway, and that was when I was first living in LA, and I was just trying to figure out this long distance thing at the time. Tasha and I hadn't started dating for like probably like a year and a half or so, but oh my gosh, I was just going out. Like, you know, that was the night that I was watching improv. I was like going to see improv, and I feel like so like you live in literally on the city block up. You must meet a lot of improvisers.
Let's tell everyone listening where I live.
Well,
please.
There's multiple. Jesus Christ, I'll bleep that out. I literally just gave your address away. I'll bleep it out. But yeah, do you meet a lot of comedians because of the proximity to the LA comedy scene?
I don't go down there that much anymore. You know, I got old and boring. And so I don't
gave up on the...
Well, I just don't go down. I just don't go out as much. So...
When I met you, you were a graphic designer.
Yeah.
You still a graphic designer?
Kind of. I think I'll always be a graphic designer, but... And
then you're in the motivational world. Is that the way you would put it?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I'm basically... You can call it a career coach, but I'm Hollywood success coach.
Hollywood success coach.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what sort of success are we talking about? How can we get our? Because we have a lot of Hollywood listeners here that are probably searching for success. Could you believe it or not? There's people are searching for success.
Wow, that's so unique.
How are people in their own way with finding success on their own? Because LA is obviously a very unique place to try to get a hold of your career.
Yeah, I mean. The past several years, the biggest thing that I've seen is just fear. And it's so cliche. It's so cliche to be like, oh, people are afraid of failing, or some people are even afraid of success. But fear in general just stops people from taking actions, taking risks, putting themselves out there. I think that people will come to me and say, oh, I want strategy, because I do that. But to me, the strategy is so easy and so obvious, and it's really all of the shit that's in their head that's stopping them from moving forward with the action.
Why do you think that fear is crippling people? Because that's obviously something, we can all look at situations where we decided not to pursue something that was right in front of us, and just because we, I always wonder if it's like some genetic thing inside of us that's trying to protect us.
I don't know if it's genetic. I would say the ego is always trying to protect us. So the ego doesn't like anything that's unknown. And so we are afraid to do anything where the outcome is unknown. And people are also really afraid of rejection. And just because of how that makes them feel, and if they've been rejected once, they know how it feels and they don't want to experience that again. So they're afraid of being rejected. I mean, because I'll meet people who moved to LA, picked up their entire life, left their family, they came all the way out here, and they think they're doing it, but they're not really doing it.
How so? I always think social media people will be like, oh, Dave, you're killing it out in LA. I'm like, well, what am I? Should I post a photo of the Hollywood sign? And I know you just took a photo of the Hollywood sign, but it's like we can live adjacent to success in LA and look like we're killing it, but also maybe not being authentic to what you actually want in life.
Yes. I mean, there's a couple ways that I've seen this, but one thing I just want to note there that you just said, I also want to call out and say, look, all of us who are quote unquote successful in LA, like we've all had really shitty times. We've all struggled a lot. And I just want to call that out because people don't talk about the struggles as often. But I really believe that the obstacles and the struggles and the frustrating times and the depression and all of those days where like, why is it not happening yet? That is part of success.
Right.
I think that really, like, if you look at any successful person, they've had those moments. And so this isn't to say like, hey, get off your ass, stop being scared, go do something. It's just to, I want people to understand like, hey, I get it. The hard times are, I really believe, part of success.
And what's interesting is a lot of, with social media, you only post usually your successes. But I mean, my world's a little different because comedy, all we do is talk about our failures. In this podcast, all I do is talk about. The other day, I went to it. My buddy works at Umami Grill or whatever it's called, Umami Burger Bar or whatever. And I was writing a pilot that I'm trying to get made, and that same day I applied to be a busboy. I was thinking, like, I have a business degree, but we have to do what we need to do to maintain a flexibility to let other things work out. And I've been afraid to commit to side gigs that are too time consuming because I know it's not what I'm trying to do. But I also wonder if I'm stopping myself from finding other successes. I don't know. How would you advise somebody if they're, if like success is can be a long path sometimes, but you have to be able to really gear down and face it and just do what it takes. I mean, it can take 10 years to break in, but then once you're in, you might have a voice that the whole world can hear,
Yeah, I think everybody's path looks different, and it's a long game and you need to be here for that. But oh man, I just lost my train of thought. I was so into what you were saying.
Well, because like I said, so it's all for me. I'm guilty of almost being very short term with my goals. I go, okay, this week I need X amount of hours free for my creativity. I can't have a 9 to 5 where I'm thinking of somebody else's jobs thing and then I don't have the bandwidth to come up with my own stuff because I'm really stuck on this this saying I heard online that was don't rent out your time. And that's what's crazy because every side gig in the world is doing somebody else's like a dream. Really, you're just doing the labor to somebody else's dream. So how can you do what you need to do to stay in the game but also put in the hours and the time towards your own dream, towards your own equity, That's what the challenge seems to be.
So it's interesting. So I actually think what you're doing is exactly what I would advise. I mean, I really worry when people get 9 to 5s because not only are 9 to 5s blocking your time during the day. So what if you need to have a pitch meeting or, what if you have to meet with an 8? Like you can't do those things. And the other thing that's a little dangerous about a 9 to 5 is that it creates comfort and stability.
That's it.
And even though we all want those things, it can really screw with you when, 5 years down the line, you're like, oh man, I'm going to get promoted and working on this promotion at this 9 to 5 job, and years are going by and you're not actually pursuing your dreams. So I always tell my clients, like, look, you have to pay your bills. You need to be able to stay afloat. Ideally, you want a day job that's like something that you can kind of do. I always think about it like, this is a silly analogy, but when you're learning to play basketball and you start to learn to dribble, dribbling is like the first thing you learn. Mm-hmm. And then you start to do layups. When you're doing layups, you don't have to think about, oh, I need to dribble or how do I dribble? But when you have a day job, it's so similar. Like you want a day job that becomes the essence of dribbling, where it's not something that you have to worry about or think about. It's just kind of there and you're just
punch the
doing
clock,
it.
Get the work done.
Yes, but the main focus is on, like, you just want to be able to have your mental energy.
Yeah.
You want time to have mental energy to focus on your career. But when people don't do that, it's not because they're stupid. It's because they're scared and because they don't believe what they want is actually possible.
And that's just, the societal limitations saying you need to have your fallback or you need to have your safety. And I heard something one of the politicians in the Democratic race was saying, and I love when you hear a different perspective and you can't unknow something when you know it. And they said they were just mentioning how bizarre it is that we've tied healthcare to a professional job because it's forcing people to do jobs they don't want to do to provide a basic human right to their family. It's very dangerous because it's basically forcing people to just stay in the status quo when technology and everything about this world is moving to like a freelance economy. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the gig economy is horrible in a lot of ways because the algorithm's set to get people to do work at the price somebody will do it, which is just at the poverty line, if not right below it. I've driven for Uber, Lyft, all that. They will get the price to a point where you're barely making enough money and you're not making enough to do that job and also do something else. I think the key is to get enough in the bank account where you can be flexible, take a risk, have a couple extra bucks if you want to shoot your short film, or take a week sabbatical to go to Palm Springs and write your screenplay. Like, I feel like you need to find something, and I'll get into the place too where September I had a comedy festival in Rhode Island, and I did some stand-up in New York, and then I had a thing going on in Phoenix, and all of a sudden I didn't make any money that month. And I was like, holy shit, October, I got to go back to the grind. And it's like 1 month I bet on myself, but then I'm instantly like, fuck, I gotta go. Now I'm a month behind, and the next month I gotta work extra hard at the other gig, and it's just like getting to that place. And I know what we're talking about is gonna resonate with a ton of people, because either you're in the 9 to 5 and you're waking up every day feeling like a fraud. Not everybody. Some people are in a job that just lines up perfectly with them. But my friend Nicole, she's a podcast listener here. She always would get mad at me when I would bitch about the 9 to 5, because it's like some people it works out really well for them. But she's also someone who's taken a lot of leaps this year and ran for a seat in her local in the local election, won, and is able to do all this stuff where she's breaking away from working for someone else and is now working for, like, she put all that equity and time into herself, and it's paying off. So it can be done in so many different ways, I feel like, but also, at the end of the day, always looking for that safety net. But the safety net is what will keep you from really pulling the trigger on what you want to do in life.
You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable if you want to succeed in Hollywood or succeed in anything.
So how did you, is it easier for you to look at somebody else and see their fears versus your own?
No.
So you can look at yourself and see, and what are your limitations? What have you had to overcome that's like a force that's been passed down from your family to be like, because you're from the Midwest, right?
No, I'm from Philly.
Philly. Oh, Philly. Okay, yeah. I knew there was a accent on the east side of the country. I wasn't that close. Philly.
I haven't said water yet.
Yeah.
But.
You need to get an oogie. Go over down to the Wawa and get an oogie. How's my accent? Is it horrible? That was pretty bad.
It's not Philly, but you said Wawa, and I got really excited.
That's how I could just say a local gas station. Does your Philly, because I'm from Rhode Island, that's very Philly, and New England, it's very East Coast Puritan. If there's an old school vibe. Do they wonder, like, what were you given sort of a fear-based mentality growing up?
No, I really wasn't. I mean, I had my own shit that I had to work through. Even more so starting my own business than working in television. I mean, when I worked in TV, I was relatively fearless. Like, I don't know if it was because I was young, but my parents were actually really supportive. I mean, they were sad that I moved so far away, but they were super supportive. And so I didn't have a ton of things holding me back when I was pursuing television. But then when I made the jump to starting my own business, whole new set of limiting thoughts came up. And
from your family?
Like, from myself. I mean, I think that, like, so one of them, just to be super transparent. So I wonder if other people can relate to this. In my family, I think a lot of people in their family, they play a role. And so in my family, I was the artistic one. I went to art school. I grew up doing theater and acting and singing. And then I came out here to do art. And my sister was the one that was really good with numbers and really good at business. So when I decided to start my own business, it was really hard for me. Like, I had these limiting beliefs that I'm not the one in the family that's good at business. I'm not the one that's good at numbers. How am I going to build a successful business? I'm the art person. My dad makes fun of me because I carry the one when I add, and I'm like using my fingers, and and so that was like a really big, it might sound silly, but that was like an identity that I had, that I was the artistic one in the family, and that I wouldn't, like when we were in high school, I took an accounting class that I did so badly and I had to drop it. And my sister got an A in the same class. Right. So I like had to break free of that identity when I started my own business.
And what did you do to kind of get that growth mentality? Because that's really what it is knowing you're not good at something or thinking you're not good at something, just figuring out how to be good at that, or at least passable at that. Like, how did you, I mean, because in today's world, you can really just kind of Google your way to learn finances, or, you know, not like, I'm not saying you can be somebody's like, you know, financial broker, but you can figure out how to, you know, start your own company, your LLC, or whatever. It's all out there. But how did you kind of navigate the unknown?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like a deeper fear than just like figuring the logistical things out. It was like this deeper sense of my identity of like, that's not my, like, even if I Googled all those things, my identity says I'm the artist in the family. So for me, I mean, it's the same thing that I still do to this day, the same things I do with my clients. Like any fear that comes up, any story, it's just all about changing the story. So it's just recognizing, oh, hey, that's interesting. I've got a story that I can't be successful in business. I got to change that story. What's the new story? My story is that, of course, I can be successful in business, and any help that I need, I'll be led to the resources. I can be resourceful, and I'm probably not as bad as I think I am.
Right.
I just took on that role, right? So it's really just about changing that story to change the belief, and then reaffirming it again and again and again.
You know, it's interesting because no one's more critical than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people don't. When you meet someone, when I meet you, I don't necessarily see you as just a creative person. I don't know. I don't see your cards. You do. So it really is like that's why when they say kind of like, you know, fake it till you make it. It's by the way, I heard the funniest joke someone was doing recently about how much easier it is to be a comedian than a rapper, because a rapper has to rap about being like rich and successful before they're rich and successful. So they have to have this confidence. In the comics, like, my girlfriend dumped me, I'm broke, and it's all about kind of humility on stage. You got to punch up, you can't punch down. So a lot of comics kind of lose their stride when they get, you know, the money, because like, what do they have to bitch about, you know? So it's interesting that you know, I guess for me in the last probably 5 years, the toll that LA's taken on me is not believing in myself, because we surround ourselves with a lot of people pursuing the same thing. So I feel like it almost changes this is really hard to say, but it almost changes. Like if I was doing comedy in a non-comedy town, I'd be the funny guy. But out here, I'm just among a sea of thousands of comics that trying to do sort of the same thing. So it's almost a little different to break free. How do you advise people to like break free to be like unique in a world of everyone who's trying to be a blogger or an Instagrammer or a travel journalist or whatever? That's all we're trying to do, is get paid to travel.
Yeah. Well, so I just have a different perspective on this, and this is something I'm really passionate about, because I think that so much of our struggles have to do with like the Hollywood story, quote unquote. And one of the Hollywood stories is about competition and things like that. And so I think that there is room for everybody. And I know that sounds crazy, you know, in Hollywood, like, what do you mean? No, there's, you know, one role, 10 people audition, only one person's getting it. But I really believe that we weren't given a dream unless we have the capacity to fulfill it. That's
wow. I like that
quote from Jack
quote.
Canfield. Quote from Jack Canfield.
He was one of the greatest sales. Right? Am I thinking of the same one? Was he the sales motivator?
Chicken soup for the soul.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, multi-millionaire. But I love that. I really believe, like, why would we be given this dream if we're just set up to fail? And so I think that it's about, like, you know, to be the small fish in the big pond versus the big fish in the small pond. Like, it helps you rise up. It helps you rise up to be surrounded by all these other talented people, you know? And I think that, like, that's growth, and that's what we want from a performer or from any kind of artist. We want you being your best, and I think being around other great people helps you rise as well.
You can't help but rub off.
Yeah, I mean, and it challenges you. It challenges you to really to grow and to be better than you thought you could be. Like I like whenever I hear people who are like, "Oh, I want to be an Oscar-winning actress," but you know, I think I'm not to shit on Atlanta, but like, I think I'm going to move to Atlanta instead of LA. And people are so afraid of being the small fish in the big pond. But to me, it's like, if you want to be winning an Oscar. So you want to be the best of the best. You need to be surrounding yourself with the best of the best.
Right.
You need to not be so afraid to step up and be in that environment. And then the other piece, I feel like, you know, a lot of us grow up saying like, oh, you should be the next Meryl Streep or you should be the next whoever. But what Hollywood and this world really needs is for you to be the next you.
It needs the Danny DeVitos to be Danny DeVito.
Exactly.
Not put on like foot pumps to be taller. Like he was a short, chubby guy that made it because he just leaned into his look. And not necessarily look just in a physical way, but everyone, yeah, I had a buddy who got plastic surgery to like look less Jewish. That's basically what it was. And he took away the essence of his what he was.
Yeah.
And that's a very specific like identity that he had. And whenever you try to like do the Renee Zellweger type of, you're like, you looked, or what's the Jennifer Grey, right, from Dirty Dancing? You know, she like you people are trying to change the essence of who they am. How do you lean into what you are? Because sometimes other people see it before. I had a friend tell me that we were between takes of this project we were shooting. He was like, "Dave, you're so funny just being you." And I was like, "Oh." And it's not that I'm ever like, I'm not like a hilarious kind of like loud, boisterous, funny. I'm kind of just like a shit talker under my breath type of thing. And so sometimes it's not something that like grabs everyone's attention, but whoever was listening to the sound of what we're bullshitting, we're like, that was some weird shit you were saying. So it's like, how do you acknowledge what it is that makes you different and sort of not just different, but different in a good way, that like unique? Like, how do you sort of figure that part out?
I think it really takes honesty and self-awareness. I don't think it has to be like, I need to figure out what my shtick is, you know? And I don't think it needs like a label in that sense. I think that it really just comes from learning to be as comfortable with yourself as possible. And also, not to get super cheesy, but to love yourself, to really, truly like love yourself and be comfortable being you. Because I think that it comes out when you are feeling, you know, free, when you're feeling like you can be yourself. So I think surrounding yourself with people that you feel that you can do that with is so important, because if you are dimming your light to fit in any way, you're not going to discover that uniqueness. But I hate to even use the word discover, because I feel like it's not necessarily like this present that you suddenly unwrap. I think it's who you are all along, and it's just being more of who you are. But it's really just surrounding yourself with people that allow you to be yourself, or that you feel comfortable being yourself in front of.
I love that we're having this conversation a month before the new year, because I think this is a good way to sort of, I feel like New Year's, it can be overwhelming for people. They're like, all right, what's your new goals? And you're like, what? I'm still hungover from a week of eating and drinking. And it's good. It's like my mom just started going to CrossFit, and she hasn't worked out in a few years, and I'm like so happy for her that she's doing a pre-holiday training with people like a third of her age, right? And I'm thinking it's so cool to work on yourself and not wait for some like, you know, perfect time, but just to go, okay, let's really take a step back to just see what's working, what we're like not feeding, you know, within ourselves, because we'll all do it. We'll go, you know, like you know, people call themselves a writer, but they didn't pick up a pen and paper in 5 years, because it's just the procrastination of the resistance of like wanting that perfection. And you just have to sometimes remember, just you have to go out there and do something. You just have to do something in that direction. I mean, that's better than nothing, at least. Do you find clients that they're can't get past the idea phase of just what they want to get done because they can't see the outcome?
Not necessarily past the idea phase, but my clients experience resistance a lot because they're human. And I think it's part of the process, but I think the resistance is, it's so many different things. You know, like one client right now is struggling, sending her love, not trying to call her out, but here's something, the way that she's experiencing resistance is something I see a lot. So it's not necessarily just the idea phase, but it's like there's phases in careers, right? Like every kind of phase. And each phase is going to require really uncomfortable risks and actions. And what happens is we finally get the courage to do the risk of the phase. And then we do it and we do it and we do it. And suddenly it's not so scary anymore. And it's actually becoming comfortable. And then it's like, wait a minute, I'm going to have to do this again at the next phase. And people get terrified, right? So that's what my client is experiencing right now, where like, she's like, she just got this really fantastic manager. And she's like, okay, well, now I have to focus on getting an agent. I'm like, you have been in this phase for so long of trying to get a good rep. You just got a good rep. Your next step is not to get another good rep, right? But she's so comfortable. That's like in her comfort zone to do those steps that might be really like reaching out coldly to reps might be really scary for someone. And it probably was for her before she was in that phase, right? So I think that people get scared of moving on to that next phase and what that's going to look like, because what got you here isn't necessarily going to get you there. It's going to take some different and new risks, and I think people just get so scared to take them.
That's so fascinating about because it all comes down to muscle memory, and you kind of resort back to just what you know. So that's what the fixed mindset I think is with people is you might learn how to dance as a teenager, but you just learned that dance move. That's it. I know I can do this dance move. It's passable. No one's gonna stop the music and look at me, but I don't know that new dance move. And versus somebody who's like, I'm just gonna be weird about it till I figure out how to get these hips moving. And that's the worst analogy ever. But but I love thinking about that, because on like the quantum like mechanics level of things, electrons, when they shift energy levels, when they've studied them, they don't go from one level to the next in like a linear way. They just disappear and show up on the next level. And that's what a quantum leap is.
Yes.
It's a leap from one thing to the next. And it's like when we say you can't unknow what you now know, you break when you're ready for it, when the electron doesn't jump. The quantum leap doesn't happen till the I'm gonna butcher the physics of it, but it doesn't happen till like all of the electrons are accounted for on the one level. It leaps because it's like, all right, on to the next thing. It's a video game. Okay, you've completed it. Game over. Now it's gonna get a little more challenging. Then you're gonna learn that your muscle memory is gonna kick in. What's good about what I like using like stand up as a sort of example, because it's very simple. You have to be creative. Learn what's unique and funny, but then you have to say it in front of an audience with confidence, which takes time. 2019 has been probably my worst year of actual performing out of in my lifetime. It's been the hardest year, but I don't feel bad about it. Then like the other night I go to do a show and everything's like clicking, because all of the muscle memory of not working out the right timing of jokes and this and that, it all kind of came together, and it was a full audience of people that trusted what I was saying. And not only did they trust what I was saying, I had worked it out with enough failure. And by failure, I mean just flubbing through it, that I was able to kind of master what I was trying to say. So then not only am I saying the creative, funny thing, but they're believing in it. And it's like when you go into like a pitch meeting and you've said this to your mom enough times, like, this is what the story's about. You've talked it through with enough friends that when you explain it to a stranger, they're like, whoa, this guy gets it. And it's like, are you willing to feel the stumbles, the flubbing on the way to getting, because if you are learning piano, you go C, C, D, and then you just learn. Have you heard of the book, The Talent Code?
Mm-mm.
It's kind of like what I think the precursor to Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point was.
Oh.
Not necessarily, but this book was, I was like, oh, this is very similar. Then I looked at it and I was like, oh, the Talent Code was written like 10 years beforehand. And it was this British guy, and he talks about myelin. And myelin is just an enzyme that basically hardens a neural pathway. So like if you learn how to play a C note enough times, your brain is kind of creating a super pathway to the muscle memory of playing that C note. So it's just muscle memory. So sometimes if you have like a weird thing you need to say it and like pronounce something like supercalifragilistic, you're gonna fuck that up a million times until you say it slow and sing it and then figure it out. So it's, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like there's a lot you can do, I think, on the physical level to like prepare yourself for whatever it is you're trying to do, and just you have to trust. Like a lot of the comics that have made it, they know they need 2 years to write an hour. They need a year to write it, then they need a year to go tour it, and they need to like figure all that out. And maybe they need 3 years, but like they've learned that they're not just, when Chris Rock gets on stage, the thing he says every single set he does, that's not like a big arena show. He goes, lower your expectations because I'm going to say some weird shit. I'm going to fail a little bit. But I'm going to survive it, but it's not going to be some grand slam. And I feel like LA is so hyper focused on everyone just crushing it at life that it's almost like, is there any room for failure within this like petri dish that we have here?
I don't even think it's LA. I think that we live in an instant gratification society right now. And so people want the overnight success. They want things to happen quickly. There's so many things in our lives that we get instantaneously that the thought of spending years to create an hour set, like people don't want to do that now because they want it to come instantaneously.
It's like so overwhelming. And it's like,
Yeah.
bro, just write a joke.
Yeah.
Start it out with a tweet, get a tag, write a joke. Or if you're going to make a movie or write a script, just like get that. It's almost like, I like the idea of being like, okay, let's just shit all over the pages. Let's just say you're gonna say it the wrong way a million times. You're gonna whatever it is you're trying to do creatively, you're probably not gonna. The first take's probably not gonna be good. Let's record it and get it out of the way. And whenever this project I did with my buddy, it's called Hollywood Posers. We do Instagram comment. We do play-by-play commentary of Instagram photography. So we just go to murals around town, set up our cameras and microphones, and do commentary of dudes taking their girlfriend's photos. And it's always the last takes of everything that we say that's always the funniest, because we're like, all right, we've figured it out. We kind of like stumbled through, like you say this part, I say that part, and we have to coexist with two brains commentating back and forth, versus when I do a solo podcast, I can just talk out of my ass for an hour, you know what I mean? But when I'm talking to somebody else, it's like you have to kind of do that tango, learn each other's pacing. I don't know, you know? It's not always about how you can create on your own. It's about how you can use your network, your friends, your creative partners to like kind of figure out how to succeed with each other. How do I've got a buddy that I create with that's super. He's got a ton of limiting factors. He's totally not on board with thinking things can go viral or be a big success, or that there's money involved with creativity. How can you? Oh, sorry, the dog's probably chewing on your. We have a bass sound laying on the mic cords. How can somebody? Like, I enjoy working with a buddy of mine. We're really great creatively together, but I also feel like I'm his motivational coach, because I'm like, bro, we're doing this. We can make it, man. Next thing you know, like, we don't need the side jobs. We're just trying, we're figuring out this and that. How can you, like, I don't want to be his teacher and his cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
How do I bring him to the water to be like, hey, have a sip of this. It's good. You're like, how do I get his confidence level up and his ability to have that self-worth?
So this probably is unpopular opinion, but that's not your responsibility. And I think that a lot of times when we're doing our own work on ourselves, and also just feeling positive about the potential and the possibility of what we're creating, and like, you have to be in that energy in order to succeed. And so I think that it can become infectious, and when people see you like that, and then you're doing it, and then they're like, it rubs off on them. And so if it's not rubbing off on somebody, it's not our responsibility. Like, they have to get there on their own, and it's a choice. I think so often we want to do it for other people. Like, I've been there so many times where I'm like, do you know how good life can be?
Right.
And you just want to shake them. But I really learned that, especially as a coach, because like, I can't be responsible for whether or not my clients actually follow through on the stuff that we talk about. And that's really hard for me too, but I'm giving them the tools. It's totally up to them what they do with it.
Do you let them see that they're not kind of living up to their own goals they've set?
Oh yeah. I mean, we'll talk about the resistance. And fortunately, I work with really great people who are self-aware. And so we use the word resistance, and we're like, okay, yeah, there's major resistance happening. Let's talk about why. Let's talk about what's going on. So the self-aware thing is really important. But I had a really good conversation with a friend last night about being a visionary. So I don't know if you know Dr. Joe Dispenza and his work. So, sorry, move the table. So he talks about quantum physics and how it relates to everything that we're talking about here. But he talked about the idea of a visionary, someone like a Martin Luther King, who saw a potential future before it existed, right? And even though we're not necessarily maybe changing laws and things like that, but we have to be able to see our success before it exists. We have to be a visionary in that sense. We have to see the potential. We have to see the possibilities. We have to see a world in which we are successful before there's any proof at all in front of us. And if you are working with people who aren't on board with that vision, it's going to take you so much longer to get there.
Right.
If ever.
That's so powerful to think it that way. It reminded me of an art teacher I had who they would say, if you want to draw a straight line, you have to look at where you want to go with it. You have to look at the end of it, and then you just draw. And it's not always gonna be perfect, but you're gonna get to that. You're gonna get there. It's like when you go skiing, they teach you, like, if you want to turn left, look to the left. It's like your body will kind of figure it out to get there.
Yep.
But that's so true. And to my buddy who I was talking about, he still shows up and works really hard on all the creative stuff. So I know he believes in the products. I just am kind of like wanting him, to know that we're I almost want to keep motivating us to keep creating these projects, because I go, look, these aren't making any money right now, but I know every hour we're working is worth $10,000 or more, because I know that the product's there, and now it's just about creating it and then bringing it to like the marketplace. And that's what I think can be so hard for people is, with almost everything creative, until you've proven yourself, you don't get an advance to write a book. You just have to do it. And I think it's hard for people to understand the like time, the cost analysis of like sitting down and building your website. It's like, well, your website's not going to pay you, but when somebody wants to hire you, they're going to look at your website. So it's like understanding, like you said, that when you look at the final product of what you want to be and become, or what you want to create, there's a lot of steps along the way that are going to add up to that, but not all of them might be exactly something that's going to pay off tomorrow. Like when you started to create your company, when you started to get into more like of a helping a motivational coach, or Hollywood. Sorry, what's it called again?
Hollywood success coach.
Success coach. When you started becoming a success coach, how did you? What did you immediately need to do to change the way you found your own success versus like creating a way for other people to find you? Because there must be a lot of marketing that's involved just for people to trust you. Like, did you start with like your inner circle of friends, or did you find your clients, or did they find you?
So I have a podcast. I had a blog. I did paid advertising. I wasn't really one of those people that wanted to just like coach their friends or their inner circle. So, I mean, I think that so our motto is that my success is inevitable. When you believe that your success is inevitable, you are led to take the actions that are going to lead you there, regardless of whether, like you're saying, it pays off today or if it pays off 3 years from now, right? Like I invested in coaches myself, like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over the past year, like $30,000 a year or something like that, investing in coaches myself, in my own growth, and I want to make sure like I'm a fucking fantastic coach, and I need to invest in that. And I might not see, well, I did see a return, but I might not see that return like today, but by the end of the year, yeah, I've built a 6-figure business. Yeah. So I think that, yeah.
You figured out how to find a return on your investment. How do you let your clients know that there is a return on what they're creating? Like, it's probably bad to focus on like an immediate return, but like for me, I want to blow up. I know that if I sell 40 tickets to a show 5 nights a week, that I'm going to be making, like it adds up fast. You don't need to be selling out arenas. I know that you only need a very specific small slice of the pie to be very happy and have your voice heard and this and that. But also I feel like, in a triathlon, when you're in the swimming part and everyone's elbowing each other in the gut, trying to get in the open swimming lane, that's what I feel like podcasting is. That's what I feel like stand-up is. So it's like how do you not focus on the setting goals? Like, do you set financial goals for the year? Do you just set creative goals, or is it a little bit of both? Because you don't want to just fail miserably. You don't want to be so discouraged because this month I said I was going to make X amount of money doing comedy, but it's like, is that realistic, or do I how do you overcome if the goals aren't always met?
Yeah, I mean, I always set goals. My clients set goals. But here's the thing that I've learned. So when I first started in Hollywood, I was using Jack Canfield's book, The Success Principles, and he talks about setting a deadline for goals. If you don't have a specific day of when you say you're going to do it, it's just a very nebulous dream, and the deadline helps it feel more concrete. And I still agree with that 100%. I think setting a deadline lights a fire under your ass to make it happen. But I also believe in divine timing, and I think that, look, we might not always achieve our goals in the deadline that we set, but we hold the vision. We continue to hold the vision. So like we say this or something better. And so look, like if it doesn't happen in this month, I know it's still going to happen. I don't know which month it's going to happen, but I'm holding this damn vision so hard that this is what I'm working towards. And everything that I do is still working towards that vision, regardless if it happens in February.
The dog's food just fell. Oh. He probably hit it early. We might have a ghost over there. That was very strange.
Oh my god.
Okay, I'll take that out of the audio. That's the dog's area, and usually, like I said, when he goes on the couch, like when we're podcasting, he'll do things he's not supposed to, and I think he went over there and tried to eat some food he wasn't supposed to have. Anyway, I'm just gonna blame him for the ghost in the house. But no, that's so right about this or something better. That's so interesting. Because I think a struggle that I have is that we know it's a long haul. We know it's a marathon. Like the overall goal can be a long haul. That sometimes I feel like I'm just kind of like pursuing creative things in a void of no deadlines versus saying the script is going to be done. And it's almost like if you have a weight loss challenge, you tell your friends, I'm going to lose this amount of weight. It's almost like you're giving yourself a little bit of shame if you don't do your goals, which I don't mean shame in the sense that like I'm not calling myself a fat fuck if I can't get rid of this 10 pounds of belly fat. But if I say I'm going to go run a triathlon and then my buddies say, how was a triathlon? I'm going to feel shame if I'm like, I didn't do it. I decided, So it's about kind of like holding yourself accountable when you don't necessarily have a boss that'll hold you accountable.
Yes, and I think the accountability is really important. Like, I guess every personality is different. Like, if you can never set a deadline for yourself and still get shit done in a decent amount of time, then that's awesome. I am not that person. Like, and I think that even like, especially writers, how you're saying that with the script, like, I think people do struggle with that. It's like, okay, can you write 5 pages a day? Can you write, or by the end of this week, can you have 20 pages done? Or,
And chances are, if you sit down and write those 5 pages, you'll write 9. Like chances are that flipping the notebook open to write a joke is the hardest part.
I also kind of think that without the deadlines, it is a hobby and not a business.
Wow.
And again, maybe other personalities are great at getting things done without it, but I do think that you want to shift from because look, as an artist, I think the business piece of it is hard for a lot of creative people. And my mind kind of works both ways. And so I help my clients with that a lot because I feel like they're all creative artists they want to just do their art. They want to be their talent. They want to do the thing that brings them joy. The business stuff is not what they want to work on. But if you're just focused on the art and you're never thinking of it in terms of a business, people want to make tons of money. There's a lot of money to be had in Hollywood, but if you're never thinking about it in those terms, how do you expect the money to come?
Yeah, you need the money or like the revenue or whatever it is. You need that to happen to like open up your creativity, to have the space to do. Like it's almost like a lot of times like an actor or someone they'll do some weird art house film, but the next film they got to do is going to make some money for the company, So it's like you have to kind of balance what is specifically something you want to do versus the legwork to make that happen. Like I'm for this podcast as an example, I'm turning all the different gears to figure out how to make it more profitable because I know the people that listen are a loyal bunch, and I just know, like I said, we checked the charts. Last week we were number 1 in Ghana. I don't know what that means. We're like charting in Slovenia. Like it's weird when you look at the charts that like exist out there, but it's like I need to be charting in the U.S. I need to be selling tickets here. I can't just be selling them on the the Gold Coast of Africa. I need and we're consistently ranked in the top 100 on the comedy interviews, but there is a threshold where advertisers say, okay, you've passed this level of monthly listeners. Now we're going to start giving you money. So the advertisers, we started to get a few, but it's really about, like for me, the X's and O's, knowing if I have X amount of listeners so the creativity and what I want the listeners to get out of it, that remains. I want that to be top notch regardless, but also what can I do to make it more profitable so I can do this more. I always tell my Patreon listeners, they pay, $5, $8, $12 a month, and they get an episode an extra a week, but they know that they're not just paying $8 like it, or it'd be easy to pay $8 a month and be like, well, Spotify's 10. I can have millions of hours of sound versus just you doing an hour. It's like, well, that money's going directly back to me carving out more time to do what I love. That's what like Patreon kind of markets it as. So this year I started the Patreon and I've been able to double up on my episodes every week because it gives me more time to do the creative thing. Now the goal is, well, how do I add decibels to my downloads to the point where this is all we're doing, so I can have somebody like feed them the video clips and they can just take care of the social media of it. Like how do I blow it up to that next level? Once you like, so basically, I think I'm at the place where I'm ready for the quantum leap, and I'm just like, all right, well, what do I got to do now? I've done 364 of these. It's wildly successful in some eyes, and in others, it's like, well, you're an indie podcast. So it's like just living in this world where I think we're on the way.
Yes.
I believe in myself.
Yeah, I think, okay, so here's what I think, and I'm doing this event in 2 weeks, and this is what the event is about. The event is called Inspired Strategy, and so it's about the strategy coming from the inspired ideas, but the inspired ideas only come when you believe you're going somewhere, right? So you have this vision of where you want to go, and you have confidence that you know it's possible. You don't really know how it's going to happen yet, but you do have the vision. And just by having the vision alone, you will be guided to the inspired ideas, just like you were inspired to start this podcast.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part is you'll see, you probably know this, you'll see a bump in downloads, or an Instagram photo will like hit the right algorithm and does well, and sometimes you just don't know why. And that's, I think, the frustrating part with dealing with the internet, is that sometimes you don't know how or when something becomes successful, what it is that went viral. It just did it post at the right time of day and the right person retweeted it right away. But people's careers are made based on putting the content out there, and then somebody else, like my buddy's got this thing that's got like 10 million views, this zombie short film, and every year on Halloween it just fucking kills it, hundreds of thousands of extra views. He's got top tier representation as a director and a writer, and I was like, dude, how did you get that? Like, how did your zombie film do well? Obviously it's got to be great quality. That's the bare minimum. And he was like, yeah, someone watched it early on and like talked about it on their radio show, and everyone was checking it out. And it was like, so it's like building. It's like you have to have faith that fire will come, but also put the twigs together, like set yourself up in a way that the fire can even happen in the first place. But then in the end, I don't know. I don't want to be super passive. Like, things are just gonna it's just gonna go viral. Like, that's something my mom was like, yeah, make it go viral. But like, how do you? So I feel like I have the vision. So what strategy do you need once you have the vision, like to get it in those hands?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like part of what you're talking about is what others will view as luck. Oh, your friend got lucky.
Exactly.
And I don't believe in that. Because I think that is a really passive way to pursue anything, to believe that, oh, well, I just have to get lucky. I just have to go viral. I just have to wait for that thing to happen, or I just have to wait for that random person to happen to see it and talk about it on the radio. And so I don't like to talk about it in those terms, because success does leave clues. When we say that it's all about luck, how do we recreate that? And I think that we can recreate everything. I think we can strategize everything. We can reverse engineer everything. I think that also, though, that everybody has a very unique path, and like what happened for your friend, it might be different for you. It might happen differently for you. But I think that, how does the strategy form? Like, I'm obsessed with this. This is what my event is about, because like I am taking my business to a new level in a slightly new direction. And I did not create a quote unquote strategy for this, but I have been led to ideas, and I have documented every idea since October 1st. And I have been led to 13 ideas. And now I've got a freaking strategy. And it's really unfolded into a really cool strategy that I'm excited about. And so it's not about like, oh, let me just see. It's like, like I'm already having some ideas for you, of things that you could try and we can talk about it, And so it's like, okay, I just had the inspired idea to even talk about this on this episode right now. The person I'm talking to might potentially have ideas for me. I think that the way that Joe Dispenza describes this, if you visualize, they've studied this. They studied this exact thing. If you visualize yourself practicing the piano, there's a part of your brain that lights up when you're visualizing that. When you actually play the piano, the same exact part of your brain lights up. Your brain does not know the difference. And so what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about is like when we wake up in the morning, everything is memorized, right? So when we wake up in the morning, we go through the same steps. Like we have a thought, I have to pee. And then our body follows that thought and the body goes to the bathroom. When we have a thought of, I want this podcast to blow up and I have this vision and I'm going in this direction, the body eventually follows the thoughts because the brain doesn't know if it's imagined or if it's real.
Wow.
And so it's not this fluffy, oh, I'm just going to wait until magically it becomes viral. You are allowing yourself to receive these inspired ideas and trust that you will be guided because the thought in your mind and the vision is going to create it.
That's a really great way to describe visualization, because I think a lot of times you see to visualize it, people go, "Oh, cool! I'm gonna go tell that to the my landlord. Just gonna visualize a rent check. Oh, good. I'll just visualize. Go fuck yourself." Yeah. But that's such a great way to look at it, is to just to. And I like what you mentioned before about you said something about success shows you clues when you look back on it and everything. Like that's amazing. That's amazing to think. That was so. The podcast, the thing I was working on, Hollywood Posers, we just shot our 5th episode. We've only released 4. The first several started to go viral on Reddit and then got taken off because it violated apparently they're really tough when you post your own content. So it jumped, it was basically on the way to going viral. And it was on it made it up to the homepage where 22 million people get to see it, and it had hundreds of comments that were like, "Dude, this is great! Oh my gosh, I thought I was going to shit on this. I actually really liked it." So we don't, in comedy, we don't get a lot of love. You get some audience laughing, or "Hey, you did good," but like to get the internet to sit down and write you a nice comment doesn't always work, especially on Reddit. Very toxic environment. But they were doing all that, and I was thinking, and then it got kicked off, and I was like, well, part of it was like, well. And now I'm going to have to redo that all over again. But I was like, well, we're already creating all this content. We're already creating what these people liked in this initial sort of affirmation we got. We just have to keep on making it. And the way that YouTube works is that it's like, if they find it 15 episodes in or 20 episodes in, they're going to watch it all. Like the people that found it at episode 1 were like, oh, we can't wait to see more. It took us 2 months to get to the next one. So it's like, I'm almost okay with this specific project if it doesn't all hit right at once. Because it might take 15 episodes for us to really click and be really good and then catch fire, and then everything else we've already done is that brush up the hill that the fire just destroys on its fury. So like I'm okay with this specific project knowing that like we're on the right path, and I'm also okay with the podcast knowing I have to be more eloquent than I was 5 years ago. Like I don't encourage people to listen to the early episodes. I leave them up there, but eventually I'm probably going to be like, hey, you can get the last 20 episodes. The first 344, maybe not. But I think there is something about just patting yourself on the back and saying, all of this time wasn't wasted. All of this time spent doing other careers. I studied business in college. I know a little bit about business, but also, like all of the different things we've done in our past will help us in the most unique, weird ways as we get to our ultimate success, I guess. Now, I wanted to ask, because we got to get out of here. We're almost at an hour. So tell me a little bit more about the event, how people that are in the LA or Southern California area can hear about it. It's like just live and in person.
Yeah, I actually have at least one person flying in for it. So
wow.
Yeah, my last event I had like 5 people fly in, which is so
amazing.
Cool. Yeah. It's at Warner Brothers. It's on a Wednesday night, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. in a theater. And it's a really stripped down event compared to the other events I do, but it's called Inspired Strategy. And I'm just going to share how you can create your own inspired strategy. And then we're going to open up to Q&A for an hour. So it's like a really intimate event, but I am on fire about this concept right now because I think it's something that I've always been doing. I actually used to teach it to my clients as like this side thing, like this little fun thing on the side, like, let's see where you're guided. And now it is my entire, like, I have literally created a really badass strategy just from the inspired ideas that I've gotten. And it's almost like I I almost feel like I sent out invitations to my event the other day, and I almost felt like I wasn't the one writing the address. Like I am just
The conduit.
I am just doing the steps that I'm like feeling so good. It's like the yellow brick road is like brick by brick being laid in front of me, and I'm just walking it knowing that it's leading somewhere. I don't know how, I don't know where, I don't know what it's going to look like, but this is the first time in my life I feel really peaceful and calm about this. And I want to share this because I've had clients, because here's the thing, like what you're talking about with your friend, there is no one way to do anything in Hollywood, right? It's not like there's one career path or there's one success path and everybody needs to have it look like that in order to also be successful. Especially now with the streaming and everything has changed. There's no one way to do anything in Hollywood. And I also feel that there are no actual rules. There are rules that people believe in and buy into, but there are no absolutes. Like there's an exception for every damn rule. You know, like I always tell my actor clients, like, you know, oh, well, you know, I've got to do this many co-stars first and then this many guest stars, right? There's like these rules. But I'm like, hey, Alexis Bledel booked Gilmore Girls, series regular, title character, had never acted before. There's always an exception to the rule. And so this inspired strategy thing takes all of that into account. It's like there's no one way to do anything and there are no freaking rules. So you need to find your own unique strategy that works for you. And for me, this is like the most powerful thing I've ever done. And I see it happening for clients where like, you know, like I have this one actor client who felt led to, you know, she's doing things the quote unquote typical way, the typical path of an actor, and struggling a bit. And then she felt guided to do this podcast with her friend. It's a horror podcast. It fucking blew up. It is opening doors for them like no other.
Love it.
You know, and you can't say, oh, okay, that's a strategy now and I got to go start a podcast.
I do a horror podcast.
Right. No, that was her inspired strategy. And you need to find your own version of that. And I actually think like that this inspired strategy, when you allow yourself to be led, but again, you have to take the actions, you have to take the risks. You know, it's all about like my inspired strategy, all of these ideas that I've been guided to do, they're all risks. They're all scary as fuck, you know, but I'm doing them because I believe in them and I believe where I'm going. So, yeah, so that's what this event is about.
I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
This is, you're so right on about kind of playing to your own strengths. I like to use the example of the New England Patriots head coach, Bill Belichick. His genius is that he'll take a player that might not fit into a box. He might not be the fastest wide receiver or the quickest running back or whatever, but whatever specific skill they have, he'll design a play for that because he knows that the players are better. It's better to exploit the defense with whatever strength the offense has, not what the offense is meant to do. So if there's somebody who's just got some sort of weird specific skill that they find they have, that's it. That's your power move. And that'll open up doors to other things. I'm sure your friend with the horror podcast, like, I'm sure they had a lot of passion for horror films and never thought that was what the market wanted because horror is like an indie business. But like, yeah, if you want to, you know, that's so.
It's such a strong niche. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't believe in any boxes. I don't care what Hollywood says. Hollywood's all about the boxes. And I say, screw that. I really do believe that you need to be yourself. You need to be uniquely yourself and you need to stop dimming your light to fit into their boxes. And you need to
stop dimming your light to fit into their boxes. That's a good way to button it up. Now, okay, so I want everyone to know all the ways they can follow you, find your stuff. You've got your podcast. What's that called?
The Hollywood Success Podcast.
The Hollywood Success Podcast. You've got what's Instagram, Twitter, all that.
Instagram, Hollywood Success Coach. I don't really use Twitter.
Okay, fuck Twitter.
Except
but you're big on Facebook too, right?
Yeah, Facebook. I post a lot on my personal page. You can come find me there. But I have a Facebook group too.
Tell me about Facebook groups, because we just formed one ourselves, and I'm going to invite you to be in ours. If you want to share what you're doing in our SAP Facebook group, by all means, maybe you could, like, if people could find you that way. But what do you do? What do you use your group for? Because it's different than a Facebook page. I'm so old with this stuff. I'm so old, but it's just more discussion based around what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, for one, I mean, I know you saw my post, right? And that's why you reached out to me. Like, I think that there are, like, all of the other Hollywood groups that I'm in, except for maybe one or two, are super negative. And so I at least wanted to provide a space that's like, look, I don't do that. I think that the negativity and the scarcity and all of, like, especially the scarcity-based thinking, I think that really deters you from succeeding.
If you look for it, it's there. If you look for a reason to have limitations or scarcity, you'll find it.
Yeah, and same, if you look for a reason to succeed, you'll find it. It's exactly the same, whatever you choose to focus on. So one, I like to at least provide, an opportunity for people to have a space where, like, we're not talking that shit. Like, we're actually talking as if your dreams are possible, not about how hard it is and how impossible it is. But yeah, I use my group, like, really also for them to get to know me better before they choose to work with me or join one of my programs or anything,
Is it a private group? Can I get in?
It's private.
It's a private. And knock at the door of the Success Coach group.
Yeah.
I think it's good to be private. It's supposed to be good to have them be private, right? Because that way people can't just, like, lurk and see what you're doing. They have to join.
Yeah, you have to join. It's the Hollywood High Achievers group. But there's like a question you have to answer in order to get in.
I'm new to all that. I'm new to these Facebook groups. It's I don't know. My I've joined a few because of Tasha, because she's like, you have to be in this financially independent group, whatever it is, and I'm like, all right, I'm in there. So, like, so she can, like, share different things the group's posting. But then I formed the SAP page, and I'm like, I don't know what we're supposed to talk about, but I was like, I started posting some. I'll continuously post in it, and I don't know, maybe it'll just be like an addendum to whatever we talked about this week on the podcast, because I already do those show notes for the podcast and all that, but Facebook's kind of weird with how it promotes things, so I think it has to be promoted from within the group. Like my personal page, you know how it is when you post something on your personal page that even smells like you're promoting something, Facebook's like, nope, no one's going to see this.
It's links.
Yeah. Oh, they don't do any links. Definitely.
If you're posting a link that's taking you out of Facebook,
they don't want you to make money unless you're
so any kind of link, they're like, you're not going to get the engagement.
So people can find you, and then also, do you have a website people can go to?
HollywoodSuccessCoach.com.
HollywoodSuccessCoach.com. And so come back on whenever you want to, and, like, let us know how it's all going. And I think it's nice to hear your sort of exuberance as you're, like, excited about the new kind of 13. What would you call that? Your 13 rules for strategy. What, do you have, like, a label for it all? Your new ideas. You said you came up with, like, 13.
The 13 is just like it'll be 14 tomorrow and 15 the next. Like, I'm documenting the inspired ideas that I've gotten, and then I've also documented the synchronicities that have happened to me that, like, kind of confirm, like, yes, you should be going in this direction, to show people how it becomes a strategy and not a fluffy, oh, I have this cool idea.
Yeah, I think it's great. Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is synchronicity to me, because I was, like, making soap last night, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll, and I was like, oh, Eric, I was like, yeah, she's got so much going on. I haven't even reconnected. This is great. So thank you so much for being on, and everyone who's listening to this podcast, go support her. If you're in LA and you need some structure in your life and you're shooting for big things, go listen to her podcast at the very least, and follow her and join your all your events that you got going on. So thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. There you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed that chat. Oh, we covered so much content. If you loved Erica, I'm sure you did. Go follow her on Facebook. Join her Facebook group. If you're in the LA area, you can go hit up one of our seminars. Go do that as well. We probably spent another 15 minutes after the episode was over talking about different strategies. You can really tell that Erica has just a passion for success and for getting, for helping enable people to find their path to success. I think there's something very great about wanting everyone to feel that love and happiness that you can feel within. So I hope you guys all feel that. I hope you're on the path to your success. And if there's any way I can help you, let me know. I love it when it's a two-way convo. You can reach out to me at sexactuallypodcast@gmail.com. Let me know how you guys are doing. Let me know what's going good in your life. Leave a comment on the Instagram photos or the Facebook. We have a new Facebook group. I'm going to be creating discussions on this Facebook group. It's just a way for me to share some of the content with the listeners, because sometimes the Facebook page kind of limits and throttles what we can share. So there's a group, just search the SAP, or go to my page, Dave Neal, and request to join, and we'll get you in on that. Anyway, I really appreciate all of your support. This was our Thanksgiving episode. We didn't even mention it. Well, I just want you guys to know I'm grateful for all those that take the time out of your day to listen to the podcast, that comment, leave a review, all of our Patreon listeners. We appreciate you guys so much. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.